Good morning, 1 Million Cups, Daytona. How are you? Yeah, good. Welcome, welcome. My name is Tyler LeCompte. I'm one of the organizers for the group. We have a wonderful full room. This is so great. First time attendees, do me a favor, raise your hand. Nice, welcome. Round of applause for the new people. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. For your benefit, so you know, 1 Million Cups is put on by the Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City, Missouri. It happens in 189 cities every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., where entrepreneurs like yourself and our speaker today, Tim, get up and share their experiences, share their history, share their ideas, look for a little feedback, and just, get to know each other. So I love that everybody's here. We appreciate it. This week, we have Tim Kerin of Core Networking Daytona Beach. Tim has over 28 years of professional experience that has generated over $29 million in business revenue. Without a single salesperson, and as a salesperson, I find an issue with that. So I'm looking forward to this story. So successful networking is all about educating your peers on what makes you different. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tim Kerin.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
One more time. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Now that's a good sales group right there. I'm sitting down today because I'm a big guy and I'll be blocking the screen for you guys and stuff like that. So I want you guys to be able to take a look at everything that we're going to be going over today. And that I put these quotes up to start just so you guys get a feel for a little bit more on what we're looking at as far as business and that. And so I thought they were interesting quotes for you guys for this morning. And who am I? I'm the big guy, Tim Kerin, and then I own several businesses, and the business, I'm in business with my wife, and so she calls me the show pony, and then because I'm out getting the sales and things like that, and doing all the front running things like that, and she's known as the workhorse, and then because she does all our back office stuff, so they say opposites attract. So having her and me together, I do all the front half, she does all the back half of the businesses, and that type of thing. So we've been married 36 years and been in business 28 years together. So that there has its challenges and ups and downs and things like that. But you know what, when you're in business together and you're married together, at least you're working together for the same goals. This is what really matters most to us, in that we have 2 grandchildren that are local, and that Max and Charlotte, and that those are our 2 little ones that we adore. Background. To give you guys a little bit of the background on me is that I've been in business for 29 years this year, and I own 5 businesses, and I'm an author of a book of learning lessons in business on how those challenges. Also, I'm a chapter author of an amazing book of amazing people. I keep telling my wife I was an amazing person, but I had to write a book to show it to her. And that. SBA had a program in Washington, D.C. We were based in Washington, D.C. for many, many years. And so I was an SBA instructor up there for the SBA program for teaching CEOs how to grow their business over the next 3 years. I hosted worldwide webinars in Exec Sense. It's a program for executives to sign up for. And then, like Tyler said, I've generated $29 million all through networking, and that's what I want to talk to you guys a little bit about later today. Some of our customers are known. Again, we are based mainly in the Washington, D.C. area. So one of our big customer we had a relationship with 14 years was the Washington Redskins. Anybody a Dallas Cowboys fan here? Yeah. You guys can leave. Anybody a Philadelphia fan? No, okay. How about New York Giants? Pittsburgh, okay, good. Okay. So that was an interesting concept with them. Again, we networked to get involved with them, and it was a really good experience. Again, working with a billion-dollar sports franchise, we learned a lot of trades. I'll tell you a trade secret and that type of thing. That working with them, I mean, that's what gave me all the gray hair. And that when you're working with a billion-dollar sports franchise, the demands are there. You're in a meeting and they call you up and they say you need to be at the stadium to bid something, and you don't get there. You say, look, I'm in a meeting. They say, we'll find somebody else. So they're very demanding. And one of the times we did was we were painting all their poles, light poles on the stadium in the parking lot. There was 140 of them, and I hadn't been paid for 60 days. So I called them up and I said, can I get my check? I said, you guys are $1 billion firm. He says, oh, Tim's short of cash. I'm like, geez, guys, you're a $1 billion company, you can't pay me. And they said, well, we're not happy with 4 light poles. And I said, well, tell me which ones it will go correct it. And they said, you're the professional, you go find it. So that's the type of organization they were. Boeing Mid-Atlantic, and that we did 6 years. We were preferred vendor for them. As you see, we won an award with them for Boeing. Israeli Embassy, my cleaning company, Cleaning Israeli Embassy, that was very interesting in Washington, D.C. They walked around, you had to go through 2 metal detectors, and they walked around watching you clean with machine guns in their hands. And that was pretty scary. And that Department of Defense facility, I can't name which one, otherwise I'll have to eliminate all of you, but it's private in that, so that's confidential. The CIA's credit union campus, they have CIA has their own bank for people and that, so we did their big campus. And University of Maryland, and that, just to give you a few of the people that we've done work for in the past, based up in the Washington, D.C. area. And that the businesses that I own, and that was, I had a commercial cleaning company. Anybody in commercial businesses here? Okay. Commercial cleaning company in Washington, D.C., and a commercial construction company where we did light construction on the interior. I had a commercial labor company in Baltimore. Most of our construction work was subcontract out. And that currently we have 30 employees on the cleaning side, and that we still have contracts up in the Washington, D.C. area. And our annual revenue is about $500,000 currently. We were up to about $2 million years ago. This is one of the businesses that I own too, is in Costa Rica. And that we fell in love with Costa Rica. We went there many years ago and fell in love with it. It's a good, anybody been to Costa Rica? Isn't that good? Good. And that, so we enjoyed it a lot. So we decided to build a property to make it an investment property for us, and then maybe future retire there. They don't have those damn love bugs there either, like this would be. So, but anyway, so we designed and built it. We networked, again, through networking, connected with a builder down there. He was from the United States, and he lived 20 minutes from me in Maryland at one point, and he had Redskin season tickets. So again, through networking, I built a relationship up with him, came up with a good deal. And that kind of thing, it's 6,500 square feet. It's 5 bedrooms and 5 baths. We made it all inclusive. Again, we looked at trying to be different, so we made it pretty much all inclusive. We included a private chef, private driver, tours. We have 3 full-timers. It rents from $6,500 for a week in the off season, and then if you use all-inclusive services, it could be up to $21,000 during holidays times, and that a week for rental and that. So anybody interested in renting that, you can see me after.
You get a discount?
Yeah, you get a discount. 1 million cups discount.
There you
And, but it generates currently $270,000 gross income for that business. So you can see the multi-businesses. We still have a couple of years left on the note to pay for, because we built most of it on time and material as we move forward. This is one thing that we like to talk about how to be different in the business communities. And we built this home, and I said there's 1,200 villas in Costa Rica to rent. How can we be different? And that's one of my focus points on core, which I'll get to shortly. And so we pitched HGTV. It took about a year for them to get back to us and that, so we pitched them to be on TV. And we had to send in an audition tape to them. And my wife, that's why she's in the back house, because she's very blunt with things. And when we were doing the demo tape for them, we sent them the demo tape, and then the producers called us up and was interviewing us, and they asked me why I would want to go to Costa Rica. And I said, look, my wife and I own these businesses. We want to spend time together alone and enjoy ourselves. And they said, Tracy, why do you want to go to Costa Rica? She said, well, we live in Washington, D.C., and there's always terrorist attacks here. And they said, Tracy, you can't say that on TV. so anyway, so we enjoyed that, and we had fun filming that. And when you're looking from a marketing standpoint, you get paid $1,500, okay? Now, it's 5 days of filming, 10 hours a day for a 23-minute show. but you get paid $1,500 and the night it premiered, 2.1 million people saw it. So you people in marketing and business, look at that from the standpoint of you get paid and 2.1 million see the show. And that to date, the show's ran several times. There's been over 10 million people worldwide seeing it. We get a lot of inquiries from people all over the world. And that one thing we do again is being different. I pitched the villa all over the place, and we are in Upscale Living magazine as one of the top 10 villas to visit in the world over the holidays. We are featured in a Jet Set magazine, and then our faucets were Brizzo Italian line, and they were featured in a Worldwide Hospitality magazine. So one of the things, again, leading into my core networking that we always strive for, and this is the example I wanted to show you guys, is to be different. You stand up in your profession, you say, this is what I do for a living. If I stand up and say, I have a villa in Costa Rica, but I list all those things I'm telling you about, I haven't told you, besides telling you the previous show, but if you were coming up to me, I would tell you all that first. You wouldn't know how much it rents for. I didn't tell you how many bedrooms it has. I didn't tell you where it is. But when I'm talking to people, I say that first. And why I say that first is it gives you enough interest. It makes me different than the 1,200 villas there. So that's one thing we try to do when we're talking about networking, is a little bit about that. That's the view we have, and that's stress-free view. And so it's a gorgeous view. We're set up high in the mountain and that type of thing. But just to give you an idea, when you go there, just sit in the pool and just relax. But if anybody, as you know, trying to be in business and that type of thing, and running business for many years, especially when you're busy with your wife, and that she's not here, so I can say that, and that you want stress-free, and that so you need some downtime. We always talk about balancing our lives and balancing time and that type of thing. This is a key component to get away and regroup and relax. And that one of the other businesses I have is an executive roundtable in Washington, D.C., and that we meet monthly. And what the purpose of this is solving challenges for executives. How many here, raise a hand, own your own business? And now, I move forward of you. And that, good job, guys, congratulations on that. When you're a business owner, sometimes you do not have anybody you can go speak to. Sometimes these decisions are made by yourself. So 67% of executives make the wrong decision. So what it ends up being is we looked at our past. Again, this is based on our personal experiences. We looked at our past, and our past says, you know what? We've trusted advisors, CPAs, attorneys, bankers, all different types of people, even our own decisions. You're too personal, you're too close. So we created these executive roundtables where CEOs get together and sit down and solve business challenges. I'm trying to eventually launch something like that down here. It's just all my connections, business connections and CEO connections have been up there. But if anybody's interested in that, I'd be more than happy to chat with you. But the main thing is what we're looking at is when you're a CEO and you're going into an environment and that type of thing, who can you trust to make these decisions with? So when you come to the meeting, you sit down and have peer discussions. And so some of the questions have been like the CEO came in and said to us, he says, my key employee has a prescription drug problem, what do I do? Another CEO came in and said to us, he said that we won a big contract, I took 10 of my employees out for drinks for happy hour, then I found out one of my key employees is a recovering alcoholic, what's my liability? And that around the holiday time, we talk about people having parties. And do you provide Uber? What do you provide alcohol? Do you stay away from that? We had a CEO come in and say he ran a $40 million business, and he said, I just gave all my key executives $700,000 in Christmas bonuses, and I said, well, I want to work for you. I raised my hand, and he said, I'm not getting a return investment. What can I do differently? So these are the key components that you do as CEOs as you go through. You can imagine your own questions you have. So it's a very fun and challenging business, and we're generating currently about $100,000 a year in that. This is a new business that we're working on. It's called Trust in Families, and it's a trust advocate business. I learned this from basically my own experiences and that type of thing. My mom passed away in December of 2017, and I was named the trustee. And that, come to find out, nobody in our family really knew what a trust is. So it was a very interesting development to the point is, is that my family's not speaking to one another. And that all based on because nobody was educated on what a trust is. Sure, a trust attorney writes a trust and that type of thing, but you have to sit down and look at the dynamics of the family, what happened, what's the responsibilities and things like that. So this was a recent experience. And one of the things that I pride myself on is always taking negative opportunities and turning them into business opportunities. And so this is something that we're working on. It is a brand new business. We just launched about a month ago on that. And that core networking, and this is one of my focal points for here and for down in this area. Again, I was based up in the Washington, D.C. area for 30 plus years. And when I was running these businesses, I was in BNI. Who's in BNI here? Isn't that good? And that I was in BNI for many years, and I understand the weekly focus point that continues to touch people and things like that, like Million Cups has the weekly meetings here. It's a good point when you see each other, you start developing relationships, and you get to know one another, and you generate business opportunities. But what I was looking at from a networking standpoint is that I came down here, visited a couple different networking organizations, and found there was no lack of education. And that's one of my key focal points. So I started to create core networking. We have a group in Daytona. We've asked, anybody here who wants to come visit, you can see me after the meeting, give me your card. We have one we're launching in Melbourne, Jacksonville. Kissimmee just launched Orange Park. In Florida, we meet twice a month. There's our fees and that type of thing. And currently it's generating $20,000 a month because it's a new business. And that what the target market, what I'm trying to concentrate on is my two new businesses. Core networking, again, my competition is BNI and chamber groups and that type of thing. The difference factor is, one of the big difference factors is the education component. We provide the education where a lot of other events don't. I'll show you that in a minute. We're less expensive. I run the meetings with my past experiences. Everything that I've learned to generate all that income, I'm teaching in core. And so that gives a big difference, that type of thing. And we offer a referral fee if you refer somebody, where a lot of other organizations do not. We look for any business professional or business owner. Again, on the trust business, what I'm looking for too is anybody that has a family that thinks that they want to do. We are trying to be proactive. Again, when we started this business, my parents did a trust. They said, we went to an attorney, we did a trust, everything is taken care of, and they put it in a family safe for 15 years. Nobody looked at it, nobody understood what it was, and that type of thing. And just to give you an idea, to date as a trustee, my wife and I have spent close to 700 hours, a little over a year, running this trust. And so when you're named a trustee from your parents, you think it's an honor, but nobody sits down and really explains to people really what is involved in the trust and that type of thing, and the fiduciary responsibilities that you have. So we are trying to build this business up, and we're looking for partners and people and that type of thing that can refer us, because we think keeping a family legacy is so important. Because again, from the personal experience, in 5 months, I lost my mom and I lost my entire family, all because of the lack of education on the trust. Why core? One of the focal points why we're here today and that type of thing is that most organizations do not give you return on investment if you consider your time to drive, your time at the event, and then your time driving back and that type of thing. When you're a business owner, you always have to look at your return on investments. And then most networking organizations make you stand up and you give an elevator pitch, and then you sit down and you have a presentation, and then you leave, or somebody like me wants to run their mouth for an hour here, and that type of thing. So what we look at is we spend time on educating people, and that type of thing. And what we learn is core habits. One of the things you see so much differently, and it's today's world, and I know millennials and everybody here is texting and things like that, and nobody really wants to communicate and things, but one of the key components is trying to understand is that how important it is to build relationships. As Tyler said this morning, it's you come here every week, everybody smiles, everybody gets to know one another here, everybody supports one another, businesses speak, and you're starting to build relationships. When the speaker comes up and speaks, he's giving you the entire background of his business. Why do they do that? instead of forcing 2 or 3 speakers at these events today here, is because they want the speaker to have the full attention of the room and build that relationship. And so what they're doing here in Daytona is fabulous with Million Cups. So that's one of the key components, is building the relationships up. So at Core, we spend time building relationships up and understanding each other's business. And then we also teach you to become an expert in the industry and how to be different. Again, my focal point is always to be different, like I gave the example about with Costa Rica. So we look at Core, one of the focal points we concentrate on is our core commercial. You have one opportunity to make a lasting impression. One opportunity to make a lasting impression. That's a key component you really got to think about. When you stand up and you introduce yourself to somebody, you have that one opportunity to continue that conversation. And if you don't, you've lost an opportunity. So an example of what we practice at Core in our Daytona team when we launched, and again, we only meet twice this month, we spent 2.5 months on the core commercial. And that we look at people, how they stand. Do they put their hands behind their back? Do they look at the entire room or stare at one person? And that type of thing. We tell them to use your hands. I'm Italian, so I can use my hands all the time. So we look at different things like that from a professional standpoint. When you're speaking, do you stand up at the table right next to somebody and make that person feel uncomfortable? And the second thing we go into with Core is we really dive down and really dig down and say, you need to be different from the beginning. The majority of the people will stand up and speak and say, my name is. So if I was like saying a financial planner, and I would stand up and say, my name is Tim Kerin, I'm a financial planner. That's 95% of the people stand up and speak that way. Okay, at Core, we change this around. We will stand up and say, 70% of the workforce is going to work until they die. My name is Tim Kerin, I'm a financial planner. You see the differences? You see that it's an attention getter. Instead of just everybody repeating name and everything, because what you've got to think about when you're in a room, everybody's standing there, sitting there saying, I'm next, what am I going to say, what am I going to say? So you have to grab the room's attention. So standing up and giving that type of thing is what we focus on in Core. So that's one of the key components about being different that we focus on. Then we break it down. We time it in 45 seconds. We time our members. And that's it. We get rid of filler words, all those different types of things we work on in Core. And that we work on being different. As I gave you the example with Costa Rica, is that we all have competition. Every one of us has competition. Some of us have competition with our own company if we're in sales. So how different can you be compared to the competition? Real estate agents, I mean, they're almost as bad as the love bugs around here. And there's so many of them. I mean, you turn everywhere you go. So how are the real estate agents going to be different and compared to the competition? You just can't say. So we talk about, is it how many homes have you sold, or are you in the top 10 market, or the top 2%, or what services do you provide? So you look at your business. If you just stand up at a networking event and say, my name is, and this is what I do, and that type of thing, I can get that off your business card. So you want, again, going up to the number one, what we strive at Core is how to be different, and that type of thing, and make sure it's impactful. So you come up with different ways to be different, and that type of thing. So on educating people. Branding, we talk about Core branding, and that branding is what others say when you're not in the room. And that people think branding is just designing business cards and colors and logos and your name badges and things like that. But branding is a lot more, and that's what we really drive down and forth. Because we always look at it, why would I refer you to my best customer if I email you, you don't email me back? Or we say we're going to meet, you show up late. Why is a good networker says, why would I refer you if you don't do those things? Or why would I refer you if you don't want to learn about my business? So we spend a lot of time with Core branding and that type of thing and things like that. Core education, become an expert in the field. We have ways that, again, from my past experiences, that we work with people on how to become experts in their field. When I showed you that article that we were written in Upscale Living magazine, I applied to a query on that. I didn't do anything different. I mean, we are not, honestly, honestly the top 10 villa in the world. I mean, there's a villa that sits a half hour from us where movie stars stayed, the Kardashians were there and everybody else, and that type of thing, but they're not in there because they didn't do the things that I know how to get that in the press and that. So these little tricks of the trade that we learn, again, this is all based on my experiences based on the Washington DC area. When you're in that big competitive metropolitan area and there's hundreds of thousands of competitors, especially in janitorial, especially in construction, you need to be different. Those are blue collar businesses, and I had to glamorize it. So I had to glamorize it by being different, by being a vendor for the Washington Redskins, and that type of thing, by being a vendor for Boeing Mid-Atlantic, a Fortune 50 company. And that, so these are the different type of things we learn and we teach people, basically about core. And that, so that's basically a little bit over we go. We talk about social media networking. People are thinking networking is just face-to-face within 4 walls. Networking is global. Networking is global. Opportunities are everywhere. And that, so we spend a lot of time going over a lot of those things in core. And that, I just want to give you a recap a little bit of some of the biggest lessons I've had in life and that type of thing as a business owner, so you know more a little about me and that type of thing. In 2016, we had a big downsize. We lost $3.5 million in business. A lot of my large cleaning companies consolidated down to national accounts. My Boeing gentleman retired that I had connections with. So it was really humbling to be on a growth spurt growing up and thinking nothing's gonna ever happen to you, and that type of thing. Customers you've had for long, long times just collapsed on you. And are you prepared as a business owner? This is things we go through and I've discussed with the roundtable. So I was trying to regroup, and there was a major nonprofit organization. It was about a $500,000 contract. And I said, let me give you 2 of my employees to show you what I could do. And they were big in advertising all over the place and getting all these awards. And their big thing was we want to take children off the streets of DC and keep them away from gangs, because the gangs teach the kids how to steal. Well, 4 months into the thing, they stole my 2 employees. So that was something again that you just didn't expect from somebody that's a big nonprofit organization, and being a little bit hypocritical. We went through being in the big metropolitan area and being in a blue collar business. Your percentage of being audited by the IRS goes up. That's not the reason why I moved to Florida to hide, but it's a good reason. But we were interviewed. We got a letter in the mail to be in an expense audit. And we hired an attorney, and the attorney turned around and played cat and mouse with the IRS agent. The IRS agent came back and said, to get your attention, Mr. and Mrs. Kerin, we're going to audit all your other businesses. So again, this is where you trust a professional, and it does not, works out against you. So we went through a 3-year, 2 companies, 2 years, so we went through 8 audits. In a 3-year period, it really drained, and that was part of the factor why we lost business, because we were so concentrated on 3 years on defending ourselves and time consumption on that. We didn't put enough sales in the sales funnel, and we lost a lot of the businesses. And that, but they ended up coming back to a final report where they said we owed them $480,000. How they get to that point is they try to get you over the $100,000 mark, then anything over $100,000, they tack on 75% fraud penalties. And that, so it became a point when you're looking at these type of things facing you, again, this is negative opportunities that you try to turn around to be positive with. And that, so again, but it was a tough lesson learned, but we ended up spending $165,000 in legal and accounting fees, and came back and only owed like $60-something thousand. But that's after spending that amount of money in 3 years, and a lot of heartache and a lot of things. We had a big labor contract in Baltimore. We hired we had 3 full-timers for 5 years. They said, we're increasing your contract. They gave us 14 full-timers. 6 months later, they came back and said, we're going to be up for sale, so we're cutting back. So to go and cut back 14 full-timers was very enlightening, it was very humbling. I hired a construction manager at one point, and he stole my customers when I released them. Costa Rica was interesting. We were building the home. we hired a US moving company, and they said, oh, don't worry, all your goods are gonna be there, and you only have to pay $6,500. When it was in sitting in customs for 87 days, they said we owe $37,000. So these things that come up to you, and we were in a lawsuit, a company stiffed us, so all the typical things you go through as a business owner, the ups, downs, up, downs, up, downs, and then it humbles you, it makes you really understand things, it really makes you appreciate the positive things that you have in your business. Everybody says, oh, I need sales, I need this, I need that. But sometimes you turn around and you look at these things and you say to yourself, you know what, there's a lesson learned in all this. And that's why we have one of our businesses called Lessons Learned in Business. That's why we wrote the book, Lessons Learned and things like that, because these are lessons learned that you go through. And that, but these are the positive things. We're very humble. I mean, you know, when you look, when we're at Costa Rica, we have that view. Okay, the center picture is the Washington Redskins cheerleaders. I spoke to them several years. I tell my wife it's marketing. She says it's ego. And that's, so anyway, so I just wanted to give you that type of thing. And being part of the Washington Redskins organization, you cannot be a vendor for somebody without having, you have to lease a luxury suite with them to be a vendor. I don't care if you're the trash company or whoever. And that, so we had a suite with the Redskins, became good friends with a lot of the players, things like that. We had opportunities to travel around the world and that type of thing. So we learned a lot. It was a lot of ups and downs, but again, as you guys, the majority of you are business owners, you know there's a lot of ups and downs that we face around here that ends up going back and forth. And that, so what I'm asking from my team here today is if you've seen a little bit about my background and my experience and that type of thing, is that core networking is a new concept here. Not many organizations spend time and educate the way we do, and that we are very competitive in pricing, and that we are trying to expand through Central Florida, that type of thing. But I need, every time we're listing on Eventbrite, people email me, say they're gonna come, people don't show up. Things like that, and people think they would rather go to a group where there's 20 people rather than we're starting out with 8, 9, or 10 people, and they don't understand the value. You can gain just as much value from 10 people more than you can from 30 people talking for 1 minute. And that, but I'm trying to to get our name out there with core networking to show there is a value. Again, we're from Melbourne to Orlando to Kissimmee up to Jacksonville. And that is where I'm trying to grow this group. Also, the trust and family business, because of the value we think we bring, every single family wants to keep their legacy together, and everybody sits there and says, it'll never happen to my family. As we were growing up, we heard stories like this from other families, and my mom was sitting there and saying, oh my God, this happened to this family, being Italian, she's a big gossip queen. And things like that, but you say it's never going to happen to my family, and then all of a sudden it does happen to our family. And that, so this is something that we feel, this is coming from the heart. So both these businesses that I'm trying to launch, and that are businesses that are taken from our experiences, and that where I've generated all this income through my businesses. These are all the tools that I provide in core networking. So it's not just a concept I came up with or read a book and said, I want to do this business. These are businesses that I've actually physically experienced myself and want to give back. So both these are a little bit about give back businesses, but this is my challenge to you guys today. That I wanted to get some feedback, some thoughts, or some comments, or anything that you guys can suggest to me moving forward. Thank you.
I'm going to give you this one.
This one you literally have to basically make out with it.
All right. Another round of applause for Tim. For networking. I have 10 lots of questions, so let's start over here. Be sure to introduce yourself.
Good morning, Tim. Tina Carlisle, the owner of Angel Senior Living 1 and 2 Assisted Living, and also a consultant for the state of Florida for healthcare resources. Have you ever thought about with the core networking, utilizing someone or a company as a beta site? Like just take that one person per se and provide them with the services and then allow them to do testimonials? Or if you have someone that use the services, do some testimonials prior to a presentation?
Yeah, we have a lot of testimonials that we have already from being experienced in this. And but you're right, we should be able to promote that a little bit more, but thank you on that. Thank you.
All right, come over here, back corner.
I'm Michelle James with Space Coast Credit Union Business Coach. About the trust, so being in a financial world, the next step after the trust is developed, they come in and open the accounts. They are clueless most of the time after even they leave the attorney's offices. Just a suggestion, I don't know if you've thought about the financial institutions as an opportunity for you.
I'll call you next. No, that's a great question. And what we're trying to do there, again, this is new, and so I'm trying to get out there and get that exposure. And that, so I appreciate that looking into financial institutions to make them aware of what we do. And that, but thank you.
Good morning, Tim. I'm Jeff Gilster, Gilster Associates, Marketing Consulting Company. I have been at a couple of Tim's core meetings and checked them out, and it just didn't work out for my schedule to become a member. But if you get the opportunity, please take his invitation, and because it's a lot of knowledge sitting at that table. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll pay you $20 more.
I was gonna say, you better have cash in your pocket. All right, any other questions? Oh, come on, that was a lot of info, people. All right. Thank you.
Rick with Mobile Cold, from an experience of trying to run two businesses at one time. It's like having two wives. I'm sure you wouldn't be able to handle two wives at one time. So how hard is it? I mean, I see it now that I'm only doing the one business. It's got 100% of my focus, 100% of my attention. Some of those emails that didn't get called back or sent back or called back because I was being stretched so thin between the two businesses, that I wonder how you're going to be able to even that focus between those two there, to where you're not perceived as overrun or don't have enough time to put in the two.
And good question. We come across it a lot because, we end up with a total of 5 businesses we're running. And that what we position ourselves as, I always look at when I'm launching businesses to make where you can make the most money spending the less amount of time. And so a lot of my businesses we build as we move forward. We build them to structure where we have key people or key components in place and that type of thing. So we are just trying to launch core to get enough chapters to generate X amount of income, and then let that run itself. Where the trust business comes into play is in the different areas, as most our team supports in core support the other business. And that we have a financial planner, we have bankers, and then we have real estate agents, life insurance people, and all those people would support the other businesses. So it's a segue, they both bounce back and forth. As far as launching them together and that type of thing, core networking, because I believe in networking, I can do that with my eyes closed and that type of thing, because it's how I build all my business, and I'm very passionate about this. This other business, my wife's gonna handle the majority of it, because she does, running a trust business is more about the bookkeeping side and accounting side. So she's gonna sort of step up to the plate. I gotta make her a half show pony and get her out on the front and that with that. But we thought about that, but thank you, it's a good follow up on that.
Hi, Adrian Trotter with Trotter Media. I was interested a lot about you were talking mostly about networking as your key what you do for your business. My question or comment is about kind of your personality, how when you're networking with someone, people think about the brand, they think about like who you are as a person. When you do relationship management, and I'm mostly in the tech space, how would you go about, like in this regard, explaining how the back office and being in the behind the scenes all the time, would you encourage someone like myself to then go out and about more often? Like Million Cups is one example of what I do personally, but for the group, what other suggestions do you think would be something to go out with in your experience in marketing?
Well, first come to core Friday. And then, second would be, is that one thing we talk about when we're looking at elevator pitches and tell people with your business, you are very passionate about what you do, everybody is, and that, but we always say, make it in crayon. Especially being in techie, I always use techies as an example. You may talk to me, and half the stuff may go over my head, and that type of thing. One thing I learned when I was in BNI is that when I was up in the Washington D.C. area, when I first started networking, we landed the Washington Redskins account. And I would go to the meetings every week with a Redskins shirt on and say, we clean the Redskins, we clean the Redskins. That's all I would say. But what I was missing, what I learned in networking, I wasn't educating my team how to go out and get me business. How different am I? Because I went to them after a year, I said, guys, I clean toilets. How hard is it to get me a referral? And then ended up being is that I needed to educate them. I needed to tell them, who do I need to talk to? Property managers, building engineers. I needed to say how different I am. I needed to make it in crayon, even though it was janitorial. And that, so in a techie, you're very knowledgeable, but you've got to be simplistic enough when you're talking to people. Make it in crayon so they can understand how to help you and explain to them who you're looking for, things like that.
Thank you. Last one over here.
Tina again. I'm on the board for the Florida Assisted Living Association, and again, I would love to invite you to speak to a bunch of owners, administrative, and executive directors. But I think CORE would be great. But also, we try to focus on making sure that the people that are presenting is going to present based on what would help them grow their business or add value to their business. So when you present CORE, is CORE something that you do based on your audience, or is it just, this is CORE and it cannot be changed?
No, it could be changed. We changed it based on everything. Like I've spoken at realtor associations and targeted for them on how to be different and things like that. So I do those speaking events to tailor that and that type of thing. It's all based on CORE. Today I wanted just to introduce CORE to 1 million cups and get some feedback from you all. But I do tailor conversations to that, things like that. And that. So yeah, I do that.
All right. Round of applause for Tim. I think that was wonderful information.